It's pretty clear that there's like a very involved and complicated network formation game sort of sitting under the hood. And so it was nice to sort of see the transparency with which sort of the results came across. I was the question I had was about the point that you made about how an aggregator linking to competing different content sites might intensify competition between them and thereby sort of drive down their profits. So I'm trying to see why that wouldn't lead the aggregator to simply link to one site, because in some sense, when they drive down, they drive up competition and drive down margins, their ability to extract rent from these content sites also is diminished. And so it would seem like this would converge to a situation in which they send all their traffic to the highest quality site, let it preserve its monopoly power and extract as much rent as possible, with sort of the threat of linking to a second site. And so what sort of prevents that from happening? Is there some relationship between the number of sites they link to and the total traffic that they get, for instance?
Yeah, the quick answer is that the optimal point of the aggregator and of the sites is different. So you are absolutely right. If the aggregator or if whatever external force drives those sites to death, okay, then the value of the aggregator goes to zero as well. Okay, and we do find that as profits diminish, and at some point inevitably the quality of content diminishes, okay, the aggregator profits diminish as well. What we find, however, is that the point where profits begin to fall for the aggregator is way past the point where profits begin to fall for the content sites. Okay, so that's the quick answer.
To some extent, this is already happening, right? My local newspaper has a comparative advantage in reporting the high school football team scores. The Wall Street Journal reports financial news, and the AP has international news. So what happens? My local newspaper links, that is, subscribes to the newswire services of these other organizations. So there is a sense in which the old media world has understood this dynamic, and many, many small newspapers use the economies of scale that the newswires and major national newspapers provide.
I agree with you, but both the New York Times and the Washington Post still have staff that covers sports. They still have on their payroll staff that covers, local
but only the Yankees
politics, staff that covers technology. What this work seems to suggest is perhaps they should somehow create a coordination where they say the Washington Post or whatever it's called, it focuses on, let's say, the news of the DC area and political news, and the New York Times focuses on whatever technology or something else. So my friend Jeff Jarvis, which some of you may know, is a prominent blogger in this area. He says, do what you do best and link to the rest.
Chris, okay, so the math, even if I read it, I'm sure I wouldn't understand it. But one thing, it seems like you're saying that in your example with the West Coast Times linking to the East Coast Times, and you're suggesting they could make, their quality will go down, but maybe they could still do okay because they'll link to the East Coast Times, right? And maybe make a little money, but they still have to attract traffic, and that has a pretty significant cost associated with it. So it seems like what's really the outcome is there won't be any content providers except the one or two, and they'll all be aggregators linking to the very few high quality content providers.
Yeah, that's, first of all, the disclaimer is that this is this, as Arun pointed out, if you try to formalize this gets extremely complicated. So our model, it was a very simple model where we say there's a single topic in the world. There's only one event of interest in the world every day, right? And then all the newspapers are competing on how to cover it. So in real life, what is more likely is that there are so many different events, and they're also limited, but there's a different number of viewpoints. Okay, so I still think there will be room for numerous competitors, but probably fewer than today. Okay, I think that what's happening today is that there are just too many outlets given the number of stories, okay, and everybody's just killing themselves. Okay, what this seems to suggest, and I mean, economic models, they tend to be highly stylized in order to drive a point, is that everybody, including the news outlets, will be better off if there is some degree of coordination where you agree as to who will produce the good quality on a topic and everybody else links. And then this can be a peer agreement where you can say, you are covering sports, I'm covering technology, we link to each other, we're both better off that way. Okay? But I do see that eventually, which is an inevitable outcome of the current situation, there will be fewer content producers than today. And I really think that with proper coordination via links, we can maximize the amount of both maximize the amount of profits that can stay in the industry as well as the quality of